What? Yo. What's going on, sports fans? Thank you for joining me on this fine evening. Hope you guys are doing well, staying safe, and like I said, welcome on in. So, we have finally made it. The playoffs are upon us. This episode is going to be probably like a little bit shorter because, well, maybe like a hair shorter because we don't have the power rankings to do this time. Since now we're in the playoffs, we did the final power rankings last week because it was the end of the regular season. So now the next time we get any sort of, standings, it'll be our final standings after the playoffs is concluded. So for right now, we're just going to continue with, pretty much this week we have the week 1 review round 1 review for the playoffs. So it'll be weeks 15. And then we're going to take a look at the matchups for week 16. See which teams advance through onto the winners bracket, which shut down to the losers, aka the consolation bracket. And then kind of go from there. And then lastly, we will go over the games for next week, the NFL games, and kind of take our picks. Like, that's been our, the little cherry on the top that we've been doing as of late. But yeah, without too much further ado, let's get right on into the action. All right, cool. I was like, did we get to the right scene on the first shot? We did. All right. Here we go. So, literally right as I start. BT, bro, what's good, brother? I don't think it's gonna do the Uchi Mama because we're not in the
Uchi Mama.
I take that back. Apparently, it is gonna say the Achi Mama. Achi Mama. Why does it sometimes say it and sometimes not say it? Okay, so apparently TTS doesn't want to work. But anywho, look at Wisebot with the 2023 little badge. But what's good, dude? Appreciate you for the resub. Hope you're doing well, staying safe. Much love, my guy. We are just about to go over all of the good old fun. And then see what happened. But, alright. Let's do it. So, in our first matchup, we had Team Dicka taking on All Hail the Sun God. Team Dicka had really come on towards the end of the season here. All Hail the Sun God went into this first matchup here on a 2-game losing streak, and out of nowhere, All Hail the Sun God able to pull out the win by a score of 129 to 110. And then in our second winners matchup, or it would be technically considered winners bracket. And then in our second winners bracket matchup, we had Peanut Oil getting the victory over Team Nugent. The third overall top dog has been upset by the Madman with the Juice Robinson pick. Mr. Peanut Oil himself by picking up that win by a score of 137 to 124. Then if we move into our consolation bracket here, we have CD's Nuts able to pick up the win over the reigning and defending, won't be reigning champion for too much longer, and Kelsey Me Softly. CD's Nuts getting the win by a score of 133 to 96. Then in our second to last matchup, we had, not Bob's Burgers, Pool of Dumpster Water actually getting the win over Bob's Burgers by a score of 97 to 83, so a bit on the lower side. And then in our last matchup, in the biggest blowout of the week, we had a Young Guns, like I said, just blowing out Better on Paper by a score of 152 to 82. All right. Now, like per usual, we're gonna take a quick little. What pattern is this on? We're gonna take a quick little look at how kind of all these broke down. So as per usual, we're gonna start at the top. Just waiting for this to load. And move this over. Perfect. All right. Now we're gonna go to the break it down. Do that. Add my display window. Perfect. Good to go. Alright, so starting at the top and going over the matchups, we have For Team Dicka here, we have Justin Fields, who was only able to get 11 points despite a surging Bears team that came up against I think the Browns are still one of the top defenses in the league, despite the fact they are the Browns and lost pretty much a lot of their offensive power. But they Browns were able to get the win. Justin Fields only able to have 11-point day. Well, on the opposite side here for All Hail the Sun God, who had Jordan Love, so this was a battle of the rival, kind of division rival QBs. Packers versus Bears. Justin Fields getting 20 points despite losing in Lambeau to Tampa to none other than Mr. Baker Mayfield himself. Then if we move into the running backs, we'll stay with All Hail the Sun God, who had Austin Eckler, aka the muscle hamster I like to call him, able to get 7 points this week in a losing effort to the Raiders. While on the opposite side for Team Dicka, Devon Achane able to get 9 points in the shutout over the Jets. Then if we move into the next set of running backs, Breece Hall for Team Dicka here only was able to get 2 points, so a very, very low scoring effort. Like I said before, that is because the Jets ended up getting shut out by the Dolphins. So he was only able to get 2 points, while Keaton Mitchell for All Hail the Sun God picked him up off the waiver wire this week actually, and then subsequently had to drop him because, if you guys didn't watch the game, he got a season-ending knee injury, so he's done. But he was able to get 10 points before the injury happened. Anyways, moving on into the wide receivers, we'll stick with All Hail the Sun God in Amon-Ra St. Brown, able to get 24 points in Detroit's big win over Denver. While on the opposite side here for Team Dicka, the A.J. Brown, who's been having a insane career. Well, he is having an insane career, but insane season with the Eagles. Eagles kind of dropped. I think they said this was their third straight? Either way, I don't think anyone was expecting them to lose to Seattle, but they did. A.J. Brown only got 10 points that time. If we move into the wide receiver twos, Deontay Johnson able to get 16 points in the loss to Indy, while for All Hail the Sun God, Zay Flowers only able to get 1 point in the win over Jacksonville. I can't remember. Did he get ejected? Is that when he got 1 point? No. Although there was some sort of like altercation thing that happened, I thought, with him. I don't know what it was. I remember something happened. I forget though. Anyways, moving on. Into the tight ends here. For All Hail the Sun God, T.J. Hawkinson, kind of coming back down to earth a little bit here because they have, I think, Mullen at quarterback. And he was only able to get 12 points, so it's still kind of respectable to get to the 2 digits. But if you look on the opposite side here, Team Dicka had an insane week with Sam Laporta, who almost dropped a 30 bomb, getting 28 this week in a huge win over Denver. I think he had like 3 touchdowns. If we go into the flex spot, Jerome Ford for Team Dicka here only get 7 points in that win over Chicago, while Rashee Rice, just absolutely insane career. Well, I shouldn't say insane career. He's been having a very good season, emerging as the number 1 wide receiver there, kind of in KC behind none other than Travis Kelce. Actually, I think he's actually superseded Kelce. But anyways, he's able to get 24 points this week in the win over New England. Now, if we move into the defenses, we have for All Hail the Sun God, who had the Dolphins, who were going to get 22 points in the shutout win over the Jets. The Bears able to get 15 points this week in a loss to Cleveland. Then if we take a quick little look at the kickers, we had Jake Moody, who's continuing to have quite the good season there with the Niners, able to get 10 points this week in a win over Arizona. While for All Hail the Sun God here in Cairo Santos, who was able to get 6 points in the loss to Cleveland. Alright, now moving into matchup 2, which saw our upset of Team Nugent getting upset by Peanut Oil. A little sip of the G Fuel. Alright. Starting off with the QBs once again, we have Josh Allen getting 17 points this week in a blowout win over Dallas. I don't think anyone was expecting that 31-10 win over Dallas at all. Team Nuge had to start Sam Howell this week, only able to get 9 points in the loss to the Rams. Then if we move into the running backs, we'll stick with Team Nuge again, who had Jahmyr Gibbs, able to get a very good 24 points in the win over Denver. While on the opposite side here for Peanut Oil, Alvin Kamara only able to get 16 points. I would say only because it only dwarfs Gibbs. Gibbs is 24, so that's why I say only. But either way, 16 is actually very good to get in that win over the Giants. Then if we move into the second running backs, Ty Chandler. He has been the backup kind of fill-in running back there in Minnesota, able to get 24 points this week in the loss to Cincinnati, while Raheem Mostert able to get 18 points this week in a blowout win over the Jets for Team Nuge. Then also staying with Team Nuge, but moving into the wide receivers, and we are going to stay with Raheem Mostert's teammate in Jalen Waddle, who had himself a day with Tyreek Hill out, getting himself 28 points in the win over the Jets. While Deebo Samuel also had himself a day, able to get 21 points in the win over Arizona for Peanut Oil. And if we move into the wide receiver twos, we have Cooper Kupp, who was able to get 25 points in the win over Washington, while Mike Evans was only able to get, I'd say only, once again, but Mike Evans able to get a respectable 15 points in that big win in Green Bay against, obviously, the Packers. If we move into the tight ends, we'll stick with Team Nuge here, once again, who had Evan Engram, only able to get 6 points this week in a loss to Baltimore, but Isaiah Likely, who's been stepping in quite nicely for Mark Andrews, able to get 18 points this week in a win over Jacksonville. And if we could take a quick little look-see at the flex spot, we have Marquise Brown, able to get no points, so he's dropping a donut in that loss to San Fran, while Puka Nacua, while I know a lot of people were kind of freaking out, oh, is he going to be able to produce with Cooper Kupp back? Yes, the answer has been yes. He's been having an incredible season. 10 points this week, like I said, in the win over Washington. Then if we take a look at the defenses here, but we'll stick with, once again, with Team Nuge. And they had the Falcons, who did take the L this week against Carolina in a last-second field goal, I believe. Falcons getting 8 points this week, while the Browns getting 14 points in getting that 3-point win over Chicago. And finally, if we take a look at the kickers, Younghoe Koo only able to get 1 point this week in a loss to Carolina, while Cameron Dicker for the Chargers able to get 3 points this week in a loss to the Raiders. On to the third matchup, which is Kelsey Me Softly taking on CD's Nuts. All right, here we go. Once again, starting at the top, we have Russell Wilson for Kelsey Me Softly here, able to get 19 points this week in a loss to Detroit. On the opposite side here for CD, they had Jalen Hurts, despite losing to Seattle, getting an impressive 23 points this week for Jalen. Then if we get into the first set of running backs, we have Rachaad White, able to get 21 points this week in a big win over Green Bay. We just can't seem to stop the run at all. While Bijan Robinson, not even more than 0, but less than a point, 0.4 in that loss to Carolina. If we stick with Kelsey Me Softly, but move into the second running backs, we have Kenneth Walker, who was able to get 20 points this week in a win over Philly, big win. While Chuba Hubbard able to get 12 points this week in a win over Atlanta for CD. Now, if we stick with, or move into the wide receivers, but we'll stick with CD here, who had Devontae Adams getting 24 points in that win over the Chargers, while Calvin Ridley for Kelsey Me Softly here only able to get 8 points in the loss to Baltimore. Then if we stick with Kelsey Me Softly here, who had Brandon Ayuk, able to get 6 points this week in a win over Arizona, while for CD's Nuts here, the aforementioned CD Lamb getting 18 points this week in a loss to Buffalo. Then once again, if we just stay with CD, we take a look at the tight ends, who had Jake Ferguson having himself quite the impressive year, getting 10 points this week in a losing effort to Buffalo. But on the opposite side, Kelsey Me Softly, for the team namesake here, and Travis Kelsey, able to get 7 points this week in a win over New England. Then if we move into the flex spot, we'll stay with Kelsey Me Softly, who had Jaden Reed, who's been often referred to now as Wisconsin Debo, able to get 17 points in that loss to Tampa. While Michael Pittman Jr. able to get 11 points in the win. Michael Pittman Jr. able to get 11 points in that win over Pitt. And if we look at the defenses, we have the Chiefs able to get 9 points in the win over New England, while the Cowboys for CD here able to get -1 points in the loss to Buffalo. Then lastly, if we take a look at Les Kickers, we have Lucas Haverisk able to get 7 points for the Rams in that win over the Commanders, while for CD they had Justin Tucker, who's able to put up 12 points. Damn, throat is so dry. Alright, moving right along into our second last matchup, because there was obviously a bye in the first week. We had a Bob's Burgers and a Pool Dumpster Water. Alright, starting off with at the top and with Bob's Burgers, who had Jared Goff, had himself a day, getting 33 points this week in a blowout win over Denver. While for Pool of Dumpster Water, they had Derek Carr able to get 22 points this week in a win over the Giants. Then if we move into the running backs, we have Christian McCaffrey for Pool of Dumpster Water getting a miraculous 41 points in a winning effort over Arizona, while Derrick Henry only able to get 5 points this week in a losing effort to Houston. Now if we move into the second set of running backs, we have DeAndre Swift for Bob's Burgers here, able to get to 9 points, while Alexander Madison for Pool Dumpster Water did not play, so no points for him. Continuing with Pool Dumpster Water, who Chris Olave also I believe did not play, so that kind of so that definitely sucks for Pool Dumpster Water there. While for Bob's Burgers, they had DeAndre Hopkins able to get 4 points this week in a loss to Houston. Now moving to the wide receiver twos, we have Rondale Moore able to get 2 points this week in a loss to San Francisco, while Zay Jones for the Pool Dumpster Water here able to get 10 points in a loss to Baltimore. Now if we move into the tight ends, but we'll stay with once again Pool Dumpster Water, who had Tyler Conklin able to get 5 points this week in a shutout loss to the Dolphins, while Pat Fryermuth for Bob's Burgers here able to get 4 points in the loss to Indy. If we take a look at the flex spot, we have Garrett Wilson for Bob's Burgers here, able to get 5 points in that loss, that blowout loss to Miami. While Tyler Lockett for Pool Dumpster Water here, able to get 5 points in that win over Philly. Then if we move into the defenses here, we got the Lions throwing up 7 points in the win over Denver, while the Vikings able to get 6 points this week in a loss to Cincy. Then finally, we have the kickers, starting with Bob's Burgers and Matt Gay, who had 11 points, continuing to shine towards the end of the season here. While for Pool Dumpster Water, they had Will Lutz able to get to only 5 points this week in a loss to Detroit. All right. Now we go over our last game for week 15, that is. So, first off, and with our QBs, of course, we have Lamar Jackson, who has been cooking this season. We have 20 points this week in a win over Jacksonville. For the young guns here, we have Patrick Mahomes, able to get 18 points in that win over New England. And staying with the young guns, but running back ones, we have Kyron Williams for the Rams here, able to get 24 points in the win over Washington, while Joe Mixon for Better on Paper here, able to get 15 points this week in a win over Minnesota. Now staying with Better on Paper and his wide receiver too, who was Gus Edwards, who did see some production there. That was like you saw before that Keaton Mitchell got like 10 points. Gus Edwards, aka the Gus Bus, getting 13 points this week in a win over Jacksonville. The young guns looking back, Zach Moss able to get 12 points this week in a win over Pittsburgh. While if we stay with the young guns here but go and switch to wide receivers this time, we have T. Higgins, who had himself a day, able to get 22 points in the win over Minnesota, while Gabe Davis threw up a donut for Better on Paper. If we switch to wide receiver twos, we'll stay with Better on Paper here, who had Michael Gallup, only able to get 1 point this week in a loss to Buffalo. DK Metcalf producing, as always, getting 12 points this week in a win over Philly. Then if we take a look at the tight ends, we'll stick with the young guns here. Who had Chigozie Okoronkwo, able to get 6 points this week in a loss to Houston. Cole Kmet for Better on Paper, finally stepping up, been kind of one of the more reliable targets there on that Bears offense. Able to get 13 points this week in a loss to Cleveland. Now if we go into the flex spot, we have OBJ, who was only able to get 2 points in the win over Jacksonville, while for the young guns, they had James Cook, who, man, he had himself a monster day with 36 points in the stomping of Dallas. Then if we take a look at the defenses, we'll stick with the young guns here, who had the Saints able to get 14 points in that against the Giants, who I believe they knocked out Tony DeVito like super early in that game. So that definitely obviously is going to have your impact. Niners played Arizona, able to get 9 points. And if we look at the kickers, Tyler Bass able to get 7 points for Buffalo in the win over Dallas, while Jake Elliott able to get 5 points in the loss to Seattle. All right. And both the Desert Swarm and the Addams Family were on buys because they were too damn good. Now, like I said, we're going to kind of skip over doing power rankings. And now, kind of go straight into the preview for the next week. So this would be round 2. We have a full slate of games planned. So let's show you. Alright. Let me adjust this. Okay. So in our first matchup, and in our game of the week, it is the number 1 overall ranked top dog in the league who's been killing it. The Desert Swarm taking on All Hail the Sun God. Desert Swarm coming into this matchup with a league best record at 12-2. All Hail the Sun God coming in at a modest 9-5. Then in our second winners bracket matchup, we have Peanut Oil taking on D. Adams Family. D. Adams Family, I believe, is the number 2 overall top dog. Taking on, I think, I forget actually what Peanut exact positioning was. But definitely coming into this matchup as the underdog. The Adams Family coming to the record at 11-3, while Peanut Oil sitting at 8-6. Then in our first winners consolation ladder match, we have Team Ditka taking on Team Nugent. So the two teams with team in their name. Team Dicka coming into the matchup at 8-6. While Team Nugent, like I said before, the third overall top dog, coming into that matchup at 10-4. And then in our consolation bracket, we have the Pool of Dumpster Water taking on CD's Nuts. Pool of Dumpster Water comes in at 4-11, while CD's Nuts comes in at 7-7 on the season. Then in our second to last matchup, we have the Young Guns taking on Kelsey and Softly. The Young Guns coming into this with a 3-11 record, while Kelsey and Softly has a 5-9 record on the season. And then finally, we have Better on Paper taking on Bob's Burgers. Better on Paper has a 3-11 record coming into this matchup, while Bob's Burgers has a 4-10 matchup coming into this. All right. Now we're going to kind of switch gears again. Okay, so in our first overall game of the week, let's take a look and make some picks. Okay, so we got Jordan Love in Green Bay taking on Carolina versus Brock Purdy and San Fran taking on Baltimore. Ooh. Brock Purdy's been cooking this season. Same thing with all of San Fran. Baltimore, they're actually a very good defense. One of the best teams in the AFC. This is really going to boil down to what version of Jordan Love we're going to get to. Because I have a feeling we're about to make Bryce Young look like Joe freaking Montana. But if we get Jordan Love that can actually not turn the ball over and throw 3 interceptions, I think Jordan Love might have the better day. Brock Purdy, I think that Baltimore, they have Christian McCaffrey, who's going to be a ball out no matter what. But I think Baltimore's defense is a bit more stout than anyone that a lot of San Fran has faced. Apart from maybe Eagles and Dallas. If we move into the running backs, we have Austin Eckler and the Chargers taking on Buffalo versus Tony Pollard and Dallas taking on Miami. Gotta say, Tony Pollard in this one, even though the matchup really isn't even favorable in either. Buffalo's starting to heat up at the right time. Chargers are just terrible right now. On the opposite side, Dallas, very good team, going against Miami, who is also very good. So that'll be a interesting matchup, but I think Pollard will probably have a better day. In the second running back matchup here, we have Travis Etienne and Jacksonville taking on Tampa versus KC in Vegas. Or versus Isaiah Pacheco and KC in Vegas. Both matchups are kind of mediocre because Tampa's pretty alright. They're coming off a big win. They're playing in Tampa. Not that it's really going to matter to the Jaguars. They already play in Florida. If Pacheco can play, I think Pacheco might be, just because they really do not only rely on him on the run game, which he's really fucking good at that, but also use him in the pass game a bit too. If we move into the first set of wide receivers, we have Amon-Ra in Detroit taking on Minnesota versus Tyreek in Miami taking on Dallas. You pretty much have to go with Tyreek no matter who he's playing against. I will say that the matchup is more in the other favor of Amon-Ra because it is Minnesota. But if Tyreek can play, which is going to be a huge if, Tyreek just has that ability to go bust the game wide open and get 100 points. Not really, but you know what I mean. But I would love for Amon-Ra to go off because that Minnesota defense is pretty juicy. But we'll see. Now, if we move into the next set of wide receivers, we have Zay Flowers in Baltimore taking on San Fran versus Cortland Sutton in Denver taking on New England. Probably Cortland Sutton, just because if you look at that matchup, very juicy. Zay Flowers, he got like less than 2 points last week, and he's going up against a very, 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 very insanely good Niners defense, so that's going to be some issues. Moving into the tight ends, we have T.J. Hawkinson in Minnesota taking on Detroit versus Dallas Goedert in Philly taking on the Giants. T.J. Hawkinson has been able to produce, but the Detroit defense is damn good. So based on the matchup, I'd probably have to go with Dallas Goedert. If we go into the flex spot, we have Rashee Rice and KC taking on the Raiders versus David Montgomery in Detroit taking on Minnesota. I think maybe Rashee Rice, honestly. I mean, Montgomery's probably going to get the ball a few times, but I think Jahmyr Gibbs has carved out a pretty big, not too big of a role, but enough of a role to kind of mitigate that a little bit. If we move into the defenses, as it stands right now, it's Dolphins and Miami taking on Dallas versus the Jaguars taking on Tampa. I'd probably have to go with the Jaguars just because that matchup for Dolphins is against Dallas is going to be interesting to watch. I mean, I know there's potential for to go either way. Like Dallas could be a buzzsaw, or the Finns could be a buzzsaw. But either way, I think. I mean, if the Finns are a buzzsaw, then probably gonna because I mean, Dolphins got like 22 points this week. I'm not expecting to get that this week, but against a very fierce Dallas team, that's gonna be insane. Jags, on the other hand, I think they might probably have a better chance here since they're alone against Baker. I know Baker also had a perfect passer rating inside Lambeau, which is the only second QB to do that. That hasn't been like Rodgers in a while. So if we move into the kickers, we got Cairo Santos and the Bears taking on Arizona versus Brandon Aubrey and Dallas taking on Miami. Ooh. Probably would have to go with Brandon Aubrey. I think there's more of a chance of Dallas and the boys getting down to within field goal range, and Aubrey's been having an absolutely insane season. So I think he'll probably end up with some more points. 50-50. We'll see. All right, in our second matchup, we got Peanut Oil taking on D. Adams family. So, starting at the top, we have Josh Allen and Buffalo taking on the Chargers versus Stafford and the Rams taking on New Orleans. The way Buffalo and Josh Allen is playing, I would take Buffalo and Josh Allen. Also, the Chargers are kind of doo-doo right now. In the running back one spot, we have Alvin Kamara and New Orleans taking on the Rams versus Saquon Barkley and the Giants taking on Philly. I think Kamara's probably going to have the better day, I'd say. Even though, like, if DeVito can play, maybe. I mean, I don't even think Saquon's been utilized even with DeVito there. But Rams defense is actually good, and I don't really trust Kamara's like not exactly the best as he used to be. Screw it. We're gonna switch it. We're gonna go Saquon. If we move into the wide receiver running back twos, we have Ty Chandler in Minnesota taking on Detroit versus Javonte Williams in Denver taking on New England. Give me Javonte Williams. I know Belichick likes to run a very tight run defense, but let's see if this will. If Javonte can get her done. Let's see. Because that, like I said, that matchup is too juicy against New England. They're all right. And going against, and if you look on the opposite side, Ty Chandler from Minnesota. stout defense in Detroit, so that's going to be a tough ask, but he has been doing good. Now we go into the wide receiver ones. We have Debo and San Fran taking on Baltimore versus Stephon Diggs and Buffalo taking on the Chargers. I'd probably take Stephon in this one. The matchup is too good with the Chargers being as bad as they are. Moving into the wide receiver twos, we have Cooper Kupp and the Rams taking on New Orleans versus Devontae Smith and Philly taking on the Giants. I do like Devontae Smith in this one, but Cooper Kupp seems to be eating no matter where he goes. That defense is a little bit better there in New Orleans. They have a pretty good secondary. But again, the defense I think is just too good. Or the matchup is too good to overlook for that Philly and Giants game. Moving to the tight ends, we have Isaiah Likely and Baltimore taking on San Fran versus George Kittle and San Fran they're taking on each other. I think Isaiah Likely might have the better day. Just because of how many mouths there are to feed on that San Fran team. And who knows, it could be a stalemate until someone actually breaks something off, so we'll see. If we move into the flex spot, we got Marquise Brown in Arizona taking on Chicago versus Nico Collins in Houston taking on Cleveland. I'd probably honestly, I like Marquise Brown in going against Chicago because I don't really believe in that secondary too much, but wait a second. But Chicago's defense is actually pretty good. But so is Cleveland's. And it's if Kyler can even play too. Screw it. I'll stick with Marquise Brown. If we move into the defenses, we have the Browns taking on Houston versus the Steelers taking on Cincy. I think maybe Steelers might have more points. I don't know. That one's going to be a toss-up for sure. Going against Cincy and Jake Browning. We'll see. Younghoe Koo in Atlanta taking on Indy versus Evan McPherson and Cincy taking on Pitt. I don't know. If Younghoe Koo could actually remember how to kick, I would say him, but it's so iffy right now. Maybe McPherson if Browning stalls out. Come on. Did it not move? Or did I go back? I went backwards, didn't I? Oh, wait, no. Oh, I got so confused for a second. I was like, what the hell? Because I had just read these before. Because we did... Yeah, okay. I was like, whoa. Alright. Coolio. Okay. Here we go. So now this next matchup here we got is Team Dicka taking on Team Ninja. First off, starting off for Team Dicka, we have Justin Fields in Chicago taking on Arizona versus Sam Howell in Washington taking on the Jets. I actually like Fields in this matchup. I don't like the Bears, apart from being a Packers fan, but the matchup with Arizona is too good. And Fields is a dual threat. We'll see. I just like the matchup. Sam Howell, on the other hand, here, he was leading in one of the leaders in passing yards, but he's just on a very kind of terrible Washington team, so you can't really fault him for that. If we move into the running backs, though, we got Jahmyr Gibbs for Team Nuge here. In Detroit taking on Minnesota versus Devon Achane in Miami taking on Dallas. Give me Gibbs in this one. Matchup pretty much matchup based. We look at RB2s. We have Raheem Mostert in Miami taking on Dallas versus Breece Hall and the Jets taking on Washington. Breece Hall for sure. Again, matchup based decision there. In the wide receiver ones, we have AJ Brown and Philly taking on the Giants versus Jalen Waddle and Miami taking on Dallas. I do actually like AJ Brown in this one. Yeah, that again matchup based. If we go to the wide receiver twos, we have Deontay Johnson and Pitt taking on Cincy versus Mike Evans. Tampa taking on Jacksonville. Both these guys have been getting the ball pretty consistently. Oh, and they play on a Saturday game. I think Mike Evans is probably gonna have a better day. I just don't trust Trubisky. Then if we go into the tight ends, we have Sam Laporta in Detroit taking on Minnesota versus Evan Ingram and Jacksonville taking on Tampa. Gotta go with Laporta and Detroit. Even though they do seem kind of shaky at times, I think they're just too damn strong, and that's pretty much a matchup-based decision there. Moving to the flex spot, we got the Bears in Chicago taking on Arizona versus the Falcons in Atlanta taking on Indy. Gotta go with the Bears. They're actually kind of a good defense. They just re-signed one of their best homegrown corners in Jalen Johnson. They're very good on their defensive line now, especially with Sweat. And Arizona is not that great on the offensive side of the ball. Kyler, obviously they do have him and he's able to move, but I think he actually got hurt last weekend, so that probably is going to play a factor. So give me the Bears in that one. Then if we go into the kickers, we have Jake Moody and San Fran taking on Baltimore versus Cameron Dicker and the Chargers taking on Buffalo. Jake Moody in this one, purely just because Cameron Dicker's on the Chargers and they have not been doing good as of late. So give me Jake Moody in that one. Alright. Moving into our next matchup, which is Pool of Dumpster Water taking on CD's Nuts. Alright, so starting off with the QBs, once again we got Derek Carr and New Orleans taking on the Rams versus Jalen Hurts and Philly taking on the Giants. Probably based on the matchup, Jalen. If we move into the running back ones, we have Christian McCaffrey and San Fran taking on Baltimore versus Rashad White and Tampa taking on Jacksonville. I mean, you're probably gonna go with Christian McCaffrey on this one just because dude's been absolutely unstoppable this season, so you gotta go CMC. If we move into the wide receiver running back twos, we have Alexander Madison in Minnesota taking Detroit versus Chuba Hubbard in Carolina taking Green Bay. If Madison can play, that's going to be a tough matchup, so I might say Chuba Hubbard just because Green Bay's allowed so many, like, hundreds of yards worth of rushing yards, so I think Chuba Hubbard might be queued in for a good day. If we go and look at the wide receivers, we have Chris Olave in New Orleans taking on the Rams versus Devontae Adams and the Raiders taking on KC. Is Olave gonna play? I mean, the Rams are still pretty good on defense. Aiden O'Connell with Devontae thrown to him. Give me Tay. Move into wide receiver twos. We have Zay Jones in Jacksonville taking on Tampa versus CD Lamb and Dallas taking on Miami. Even though the matchup isn't favorable, I'll still take CD Lamb. Then if we look at the tight ends, we got Tyler Conklin and the Jets taking on Washington versus Jake Ferguson and Dallas taking on Miami. Maybe Tyler Conklin. I use that sparingly because, screw that. Jake Ferguson is gonna get more points. As much as I would like to say Conklin going against Washington because the matchup is favorable, I just think Ferguson's gonna just at least get some production. He's been on fire as of late. Flex, we got Tyler Lockett in Seattle taking on Tennessee versus Michael Pittman Jr. in Indy taking on Atlanta. If Michael Pittman Jr. can play, because he took a nasty hit, we'll see about that. Then I would say Pittman Jr. Now moving into the defenses, we got Vikings in Minnesota taking on Detroit versus the Cowboys taking on Miami. Oh man. And they're playing in Miami, and Vikings are playing at home? I don't really trust the Vikings defense, so maybe the Cowboys. If we go into the kickers, we got Will Lutz in Denver taking on New England versus Justin Tucker and Baltimore taking on San Fran. Ooh. Probably Justin Tucker will probably have more points. I just can see either Denver has their way with New England or the opposite happens and they can't really do too much. Alright, in our second to last matchup, we got the Young Guns and Kelsey Mesoff. Oh, did not get to the top. Yeah, we need the QB. There we go. Perfect. Alright. Onward. So, starting off once again with the QBs, and we have Young Guns taking on the reigning and defending, but soon to be not champion, Kelsey Mesoff. So, we have Patrick Mahomes and KC taking on the Raiders versus Russell Wilson and Denver taking on New England. Oh man. I mean, Russell's been doing pretty good this season. Well, better this season. New England, not that great. Can you really say go bet against Mahomes? I don't know, man. And against the Raiders, but they're at home. Give me the Raiders, or give me Mahomes. Now, if we move into running back ones, we got Kyren Williams and the Raiders. Not the Raiders, the Rams taking on New Orleans versus Bijan. And Atlanta taking on Indy. Well, Kyren has actually been getting carries and looks well. Bijan is not. Matchup isn't favorable, but I do like Kyren Williams. Moving into the running backs, we have Zach Moss and Indy taking on Atlanta versus Kenneth Walker and Seattle taking on Tennessee. Even Kenneth Walker, he looked damn good against the Eagles yesterday. So I don't see why he wouldn't be able to build on that performance against a middle-of-the-pack Titans defense. So we'll see. Moving into the wide receiver ones, we have T. Higgins in Cincy taking on Pitt versus Calvin Ridley and Jacksonville taking on Tampa. Interesting. Higgins just coming off a good game. Ridley, I think, not so much. In Pittsburgh, both a backup QB. I think Calvin Ridley might just edge him out. If we go into the second set of wide receivers, we got DK Metcalf and Seattle taking on Tennessee versus Brandon Ayuk and San Fran taking on Baltimore. I like DK in this one just because matchup based, you don't know. If we look at the tight end, we have Chigozium Okonkwo. I probably butchered that and I apologize. And Tennessee taking on Seattle versus Travis Kelce and the Chiefs taking on the Raiders. Might have to go with Kelce on this one because he's pretty much the focal point of that offense. If we move into the flex spot, we got James Cook and Buffalo taking on the Chargers versus Jade Reed and Green Bay taking on Carolina. If Jade Reed, curiosity. Man, this kid's been cooking. 19, 15, 20, 17. Good for him. If Jaden Reed can play, I'd say, but James Cook has been fucking killing it. I don't think you can go against James Cook, especially going against the Chargers. If we look at the defense, we have the Saints and New Orleans taking on the Rams versus the Chiefs, and KC taking on Las Vegas. Rams or Raiders? Probably Chiefs defense, just because Aiden O'Connell. I mean, dude did fall out last week, so who knows? But not 100% sold, I guess. Moving to the kickers, we got Jake Elliott and Philly taking on the Giants versus Lucas Havasquik and the Rams taking on I think Lucas might have the better chance to have more points. There's a good chance that the Philly game might just be a blowout and Elliott's just kicking a lot of regular extra points. Alright. Now in our final matchup of round 2. Here we go. This is Better on Paper taking on Bob's Burgers. So starting off at the top, we have Lamar Jackson of Baltimore taking on San Fran versus Jared Goff of Detroit taking on Minnesota. Okay. Based on the matchup, I'd probably go Goff. Although Lamar is having an MVP-like season, so can't write him off too much, if at all. In the running back 1 spot, we have Joe Mixon and Cincy taking on Pitt versus Derrick Henry and Tennessee taking on Seattle. Pitt, decent defense. Seattle, also decent defense. Derrick Henry has been having an up and down season. Let's do... Game in Pittsburgh too. Give me... Screw it. Give me Joe Mixon. I don't know, something about Tennessee just doesn't sit well with me. If we move into RB2s, we have Gus Edwards in Baltimore taking on San Fran versus DeAndre Swift and Philly taking on the Giants. Easily got to go with DeAndre Swift. It's just matchup. Too juicy. Moving to the wide receivers, we have Gabe Davis in Buffalo taking on the Chargers versus DeAndre Hopkins in Tennessee taking on Seattle. DeAndre Hopkins and Tennessee taking on Seattle versus Gabe Davis and the Chargers. Gabe Davis had such an up and down season, especially with how Stephon Diggs has performed, because Diggs has been performing phenomenally. But Davis literally had a donut last week. So, probably just have to go with Hopkins on this one. We go into the wide receiver 2s. We have Michael Gallup in Dallas taking on Miami versus Rondale Moore in Arizona taking on Chicago. Give me Michael Gallup to have a better day, in my opinion. In the tight ends, we got Cole Kmet in Chicago taking on Arizona versus Pat Freiermuth and Pitt taking on Cincy. I think Cole Kmet's going to have a better day. Matchup based, and he's been actually, I think the last few games he's been actually pretty killer. Yeah, he's position ranked 7th. So not too bad. Moving to the flex spot, we got OBJ and Baltimore taking on San Fran versus Garrett Wilson and the Jets taking on Washington. It's going to be a low-scoring affair, but I think Garrett Wilson have the better day. If we go into the defenses, we have the Niners taking on Baltimore versus the Lions taking on Minnesota. Probably matchup based, taking the Lions. Now if we go into the kickers, we got Tyler Bass taking on in Buffalo, taking on the Chargers versus Matt Gay in Indy taking on Atlanta. Give me Matt Gay. Give me Matt Gay. Not that I think that they'll have like a super ton of issues with Atlanta. Maybe they'll get a few more stops, but I think the Chargers are just so bad and Buffalo's so good at the moment that it's just gonna be extra points for Bass. All right, and I think that does it. That concludes round 2, which now brings us to the last little bit, which is doing a quick little breakdown and doing our picks for week 16. And since we're doing this on a Tuesday night, nice and early, we get to choose all the games. Wait, look at that. Weird. Oh wait, next week is Christmas? Oh, I'm so messed up. Yeah, of course it is. You weirdo. So we get Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, and wow, we get a whole weekend of NFL football. Bellissimo. Except Friday, imagine. Imagine if we had Thursday, Friday. That'd be crazy. All right. Anywho, let's do this. Okay. What? No. Now we'll open up this good old paint. Open our screenshotties. No, it would be under. Oh yeah, it would be under screenshots. Perfect. All right. And let's get the square going. Okay. So first game. So this is the Thursday night matchup, really? Saints versus Rams. Playing in LA. I like the Rams. Bengals Steelers. Playing in Pittsburgh. Give me the Bengals, because I don't like Trubisky. Chargers, Bills. Especially right now, Bills are soaring. Falcons, Colts. Playing in Atlanta, though. Do I want to go with the Falcons? I kind of want to go with the Falcons. But I'm not. I'm going to go with the Colts. Panthers, Packers. We're going to go Packers. Browns, Texans. I hear CJ Stroud is not going to play that game, so we're going Browns. Lions, Vikings. Lions. Jets, Commanders. This is going to be a shit game, but I think Commanders get this one. Seahawks, Titans. Seahawks. Picking a lot of away teams to win. I might have to change some of these picks, yo. But which one would I even change? Alright, I think I got a couple. We're gonna change this. We're gonna choose the Falcons, but we're definitely keeping the Packers because I don't think Carolina's winning. Texans without CJ Stroud, they could. Well, didn't they just win off a field goal? And D'Amico Ryans has the boys cooking. And we're definitely still picking the Lions. But I kind of want to go. Why do I want to go Jets? Like, I know it's just going to end in humiliating defeat. because I don't like Washington. Take the Jets. I might actually roll with. Screw it, we're going with D'Amico Ryans and Texans. Seahawks, Titans. Kind of like the Seahawks in this one. Jags, Bucks. I do like the Jags. Bucks coming off a big win though. Give me the Jags. Bears, Cards. Bears. Dolphins, Cowboys. Ooh, this is going to be an insane matchup. Playing in Miami. Give me the Dolphins. Patriots, Broncos, Raiders, Chiefs. Playing at Arrowhead. Chiefs. Giants, Eagles. Eagles. Ravens, Niners. Oh boy. I just think the Niners are too fucking good. But hey, if there's anyone that's going to be able to stop them, it could be Lamar. Alright. I can't believe I'm picking the Jets. Sick. Alright. Boom. Well, we've done it, y'all. We went over all of the action for the first round of the playoffs. Went into them a little bit more detail. We didn't do the power rankings because there was no updated power rankings because we're all in the playoffs. Then we took a look at what the round 2 matchups are going to look like. Then we took some picks at who we thought was going to do better. And then as we've been kind of doing to wrap up, we've been taking picks at the NFL games and seeing how we're doing there. So yeah, I appreciate you guys tuning in. If you're here in the Twitch team, it's been vibe for a little bit. If you guys are here watching on YouTube, which is all, like, if you guys already know, these all get made into YouTube videos. So if you're watching the video, watching this YouTube video, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, have been enjoying the content and enjoying our season as we are getting down. This is probably like 2 episodes left. Shocking, right? And then we're done with the season. But if you let me know what you guys are thinking. If you guys have had any thoughts about it, what your reactions to some of how these upsets and whatnot happen. Let me know all right down below in the comment section. Additionally, you can always feel free to hit that subscribe and or follow button, depending on the platform. Because guess what, we are still building this place up slowly but surely. We trust the process. Anyways, without too much further ado, I hope you guys have a great rest of your night, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out, stay safe, much love, and see you later.